The Uncharted series has always walked a fine line between history and myth. It's a franchise built on the question, what if the legends were real? From the lost city of El Dorado to the towers of Shambhala, from Aram of the Pillars to Libertalia, every story feels like it's pulled straight from the dusty corners of ancient maps and forbidden texts. But it also makes you wonder, do these lost cities actually exist? Could any of Nathan Drake's adventures have a real-world origin? To understand that, we have to look at how Uncharted blends real archaeology with folklore. Every city Drake searches for in the games has a foundation in history, even if the game takes creative liberties with how that story ends. The writers at Naughty Dog use real-world explorers, legends, and artifacts as jumping-off points, building fictionalized versions of mysteries that people have been chasing for centuries. Let's start at the beginning, Uncharted, Drake's fortune. The story revolves around El Dorado, the fabled city of gold. In the game, Drake follows clues from his supposed ancestor, Sir Francis Drake, to find the lost treasure. But instead of a city, he finds a massive golden idol that hides a terrible curse. The idea of El Dorado goes back to the early days of Spanish exploration in South America. The legend began with the story of a Muisca tribal chief in Colombia who would cover himself in gold dust and dive into a sacred lake as an offering to the gods. Over time, the story grew. People began to imagine not a ritual, but a city, a place overflowing with gold and riches beyond imagination. Expeditions scoured the jungles of South America for centuries, losing countless lives to disease, starvation, and hostile terrain. No one ever found El Dorado, but the myth refused to die. Uncharted twisted that obsession into something darker, a treasure so powerful it destroys anyone who touches it. The second game, Uncharted 2, Among Thieves, shifts from South America to the mountains of the Himalayas in search of Shambhala. Also known as Shangri-La, this myth comes from Tibetan and Buddhist traditions describing a hidden kingdom, a place untouched by war and suffering, hidden somewhere in the snowy peaks of Central Asia. Many explorers and mystics in the 19th and early 20th centuries believe Shambhala might be a real place, possibly located in the Kunlun Mountains or near the Himalayas. What makes it fascinating is that some ancient Tibetan texts describe it as a kingdom ruled by wise beings who possess incredible power and knowledge. The Nazis even sent expeditions to Tibet, hoping to find it, believing it could hold the secrets to ultimate power. Uncharted 2 takes that real-world mythology and builds on it, turning Shambhala into a city guarded by supernatural beings and fueled by a mystical blue resin. It's a perfect example of how the series takes existing myths and turns them into cinematic adventure. Then there's Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception, which focuses on the lost city of Aram of the Pillars, a name that comes directly from the Quran and ancient Arabian folklore. Also known as Ubar or the Atlantis of the Sands, it was said to be a magnificent city that defied God, only to be buried beneath the desert as punishment for its arrogance. In the early 20th century, explorers like Bertram Thomas and T.E. Lawrence, yes, Lawrence of Arabia, searched for it in the deserts of Oman. In 1992, satellite imaging and excavations led to the discovery of a site in the Rub al-Khali Desert that might have been the inspiration for the myth. Researchers found evidence of an ancient trading outpost that collapsed into a sinkhole after centuries of use. While not a city of gold, it proved that the legend was rooted in real history. Uncharted 3 builds on that, turning Aram into a cursed ruin filled with supernatural hallucinations and a lost power source. By the time Uncharted 4, A Thief's End came around, the story had matured. Instead of chasing mystical relics, Drake was chasing his past and the legend of Libertalia, a lost pirate utopia. This city isn't from ancient scripture or myth, it's from colonial lore. During the 17th and 18th centuries, there were countless rumors of pirate havens scattered across the Indian Ocean, places where pirates lived free from the rule of kings and empires. Libertalia was said to be founded by Captain James Misson, a real, if somewhat mysterious, figure. The story goes that Misson and his crew built a colony based on equality and freedom, where everyone shared wealth and lived without hierarchy. Historians debate whether it ever existed, but the legend endured because it represented a dream, a world where outlaws made their own rules. Uncharted 4 takes that idea and grounds it in human drama. Libertalia becomes not just a lost city, but a symbol of greed and betrayal, the same ideals that destroyed both the pirates who built it and the men searching for it centuries later. So do these cities actually exist? The answer is complicated. None of them exist exactly as Uncharted shows them, but every one of them is built on real-world stories, real explorers, and real mysteries. The games blur the line between what's historical and what's imagined. For instance, El Dorado may not be a golden idol that curses men into monsters, but there were real tribes who worshipped gold as a divine substance. Shambhala may not hide magical blue sap, but many spiritual seekers genuinely believed in a hidden sanctuary beyond human reach. Aram might not be full of ghosts, but archaeologists really did uncover the ruins of a lost trade city under the sands. And while Libertalia was probably never real, it reflected the desires of pirates and runaways who longed for a life free from tyranny. What Uncharted captures so perfectly is that all myths begin with a kernel of truth. People invent legends because they reflect something they long for: power, wealth, freedom, or immortality. These lost cities are metaphors as much as they are mysteries. El Dorado represents greed and obsession. Shambhala represents enlightenment and spiritual transcendence. Iram represents pride and downfall. Libertalia represents rebellion and the illusion of freedom. And Nathan Drake himself represents the modern explorer, a man torn between curiosity and morality. His adventures remind us why we're drawn to myths in the first place. We want to believe that there's more to the world than what we see, that somewhere out there, beneath jungles, oceans, or deserts, there are secrets waiting to be uncovered. In a way, the lost cities of Uncharted do exist, not as physical locations, but as ideas that keep history alive. The ruins may be fictional, but the desire that drives people to search for them is very real. Explorers still dive into ancient lakes in search of treasure. Historians still debate the locations of vanished civilizations. And archaeologists still follow fragments of stories told thousands of years ago, hoping they'll lead to something that proves the legends true. That's why Uncharted resonates so deeply. It reminds us that myth and history are not opposites, they're partners. One gives meaning to the other. Every city Drake finds tells us more about humanity's endless urge to chase the unknown. Whether or not those cities ever stood in stone doesn't matter as much as what they represent, the timeless need to uncover, to understand, and to believe that even the wildest legends might hold a grain of truth.